Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to Football Discussions. And before we get started, just want to let you know we are doing the 32 GM subscriber mock draft. So make sure you are subscribed to be eligible to be selected to be one of the 32 GMs. We're going to do about 4 rounds. You guys can trade up and trade down with each other. Should create some chaos, but should be a lot of fun. And I'll post it on the YouTube channel. That's once we hit 1,000 subs. So make sure you're subscribed. We're almost there. We're at 860 right now. So let's keep growing, get to that 1,000 sub mark so we can do that. And again, leave the team name in the comments below of what team you would want to represent in that draft. And if you are subscribed, you have a good chance of being selected. But today we are coming at you with a reaction to a mock draft. It's going to be Todd Mcshays mock draft. I believe this was written at 11:35 p.m. Eastern, it says. So that was last night. Very new. This is a blind reaction. Haven't seen anything. Heard there were some crazy picks, so I'm a little excited. And he says jump to a trade at 3 or 12. So there's obviously some trades in this draft. And Mel Kiper dropped his mock draft with trades. So it's not shocked to see that Todd is now going the trade direction too. These guys kind of compete with each other, but obviously are good friends over at ESPN. But we'll get into it. And with the number 1 overall pick, he does take Trevor Lawrence. Everyone's mocked this. Trevor Lawrence is a lock. I mean, you look at guys like Joe Burrow, look at guys like Kyler Murray, and then going back a few years, Andrew Luck in 2012. These were some of the quarterbacks that after the college football season, you were like, all right, these are the number 1 overall picks. Kyler's rise was a little more meteoric in the sense that, it was uncertain of whether he was going to go to the MLB or not, and then he decided not to, and then he started rising up draft boards. So he wasn't necessarily a lock, but Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Andrew Luck, guys like these are guys that we have seen being locks here at this point, and I don't expect it to change. I think Trevor is getting some sort of surgery, but they said he'll be ready by training camp. So, let's see what this says. He will throw for scouts on Friday ahead of surgery on his it's a non-throwing shoulder injury. So shouldn't be that big of a deal. Still a really good prospect, and obviously I agree with that one 100% because it's hard not to. At 2, he does do Zach Wilson to the Jets. This is what I've been mocking. It's what a lot of people have been mocking. Zach Wilson's a super talented quarterback, possesses that mobility, great arm strength, can throw at those weird angles that we see guys like Patrick Mahomes do, which excites a lot of people, and has great progression in the pocket. So Zach Wilson certainly, in my opinion, is the second best quarterback in the class, and in my opinion, is the second best player in this class. So top 2 players, in my opinion, are off the board at the top 2 picks. So I agree with this draft completely so far. Jets could trade Sam Darnold or could hang on to him and then trade this pick. For right now, it really feels like they are trading Sam Darnold. I saw the Colts have some interest. The 49ers might have some interest. The Broncos could be another team. The football team could be another team. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Jets do. They could even go the Deshaun Watson route. So there's a lot that can happen, but I think Zach Wilson at 2 is a good bet for now. At 3, so we have a trade here. And it's the Panthers giving the Dolphins, let's see, their pick, the number 39th overall pick, and a 2022 first rounder. So it's kind of a haul here to move up for the Panthers. And he has them taking Trey Lance. Wow. Did not see that coming. So Trey Lance at 3. Very interesting. Above above Justin Fields. And now, in my opinion, I have Justin Fields above Trey Lance, but that doesn't mean that Trey Lance couldn't go above Justin Fields. And I know a lot of people out there, college football fans, who have watched college football and saw the season and saw what a great season Justin Fields has, thinks that he should be the second quarterback, thinks he's better than Zach Wilson. When it comes down to it, that Ohio State offense is so simplified that it's very hard for these guys to develop into quarterbacks in the NFL. Justin Fields has been in an offense where he's looking at one player the entire play, doesn't really have great progression, plays, in an offense where it's very, very simplified and it's hard to transition to the NFL. Not that he can't do it and not that he can't be a good player. I think that he certainly could under the right coaching staff, but for Trey Lance to be picked above Justin Fields isn't as big of a reach as a lot of people think it is. So Trey Lance above Fields, I like the ballsiness by Todd McShay here. I think it's a fun concept to, switch up the quarterback order every once in a while, and I'll kind of see what he says here. He says, it's either between him and Justin Fields. Both possess strong arms, both highly competitive, both sturdy in the pocket and can pick up chunks when they decide to tuck and run. They both can hit the deep ball, but going back on the tape, I think Lance goes through progressions a little more quicker than Fields. So that's what it comes down to, yeah. The progression of the offense, and like I was saying about Justin Fields, it is very simplified. So once the pocket breaks down or the play breaks down, what is he doing with his eyes? Where is he going next? It's usually a run, and that's not always going to work in the NFL. He is a great athlete and all that, but I think that Trey Lance's ability to progress through the offense a little more certainly could make him a better prospect than Justin Fields and could be picked higher. Do I think Carolina trades up for Trey Lance? No. Do I think that if he falls to 4 and both Justin Fields and Trey Lance are available for the Falcons, that the Falcons could go Trey Lance? Yes. Or maybe if he falls past 4, then we could see a team like the 49ers trade up, who I think would like Trey Lance a little better than Justin Fields. So it's going to be interesting, but I do like the ballsiness of the pick, and that 4, he is the Atlanta Falcons going Justin Fields. So Justin Fields, not a bad prospect. I've been kind of hating on him, but I'm really not hating on him. I'm just saying there's prospects that are better than him. Justin Fields is a great quarterback, should go in the top 10. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. He's a terrific athlete, and if he gets in the right coaching staff, he can be a really, really good player. I actually don't think Atlanta is the best place for him to fall, but learning from a guy like Matt Ryan can never hurt. So Justin Fields at 4, I do agree with. I like the ballsiness of this mock draft so far. It's a little interesting, a little unique. So it's been fun to go through. We'll see what he does at 5. And this is a perfect pickup here for the Bengals. You got to protect Joe Burrow. I've said this in all my mock drafts. It doesn't matter if Jamar Chase is on the board. Whether Sewell or Slater is on the board, if Sewell's already taken at this point, then the Bengals have to go Slater because they have to protect Joe Burrow. You almost got him killed last year, almost ended his career last year. So I think offensive tackle has to be the pick at 5. You're getting top 2 talents or top 10 talents in this class with Slater and Sewell no matter what. 2 very, very good players. Slater has a higher floor. Sewell has a higher ceiling. So it's, pick and choose what you want. I think that, it's a great pickup for the Bengals, and this has been a fun mock draft so far. The only thing I've disagreed with is the trade up for Lance. I don't think a team would trade up to 3 for Lance. Could be wrong about that. Obviously, Todd Mcshays knows far more than I do. But that's the only thing that I would put a red flag on. I do like the Lance over Fields pick. I think it's certainly a possibility. Again, Fields is my number 3 quarterback, but I'm not knocking that. I think that could happen, and really anything could happen because no one ever really knows what's happening in the draft. But at 6, the Philadelphia Eagles, he has going Jamar Chase. This is another one that I completely agree with. I think he's the most dominant receiver in the class. You can look at Devontae Smith. He had a great season. But unless the Dolphins are picking ahead of the Eagles and the Dolphins don't trade back and they do decide to go wide receiver, I really don't think there's a chance that Devontae Smith goes above Jamar Chase unless it's to the Dolphins who want to pair him with Tua Tagovailoa. Jamar Chase is a really, really good player, very physical, great release, can boss people, and has the speed to create separation. So a really fun player and someone that can dominate the point of attack at the line of scrimmage at the wide receiver position for the Eagles, which you really can't be said about any Eagles receiver on the roster right now. So I think wide receiver really has become the Eagles' biggest need. There is an off chance to go Micah Parsons or Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley here at 6, but I doubt it. I think Jamar Chase has to be the pick. We'll see what he does at 7, and he goes Devontae Smith. I think Smith is a great pickup for the Detroit Lions. He says if Philly is on the clock and both Chase and Smith are available, you'll see some smiles from new coach Dan Campbell and new quarterback Jared Goff. Yeah, because obviously they're getting one of the top 2 wide receivers in this class. I agree with that. Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, he also says are all impending free agents. That's all very true. And with Goff's contract, it's going to be hard to pay Kenny Golladay, so they might have to let him go regardless, even if they hang on to Kenny Golladay. The next best receiver, as you can see what he says, is Quintez Cephas. So Devontae Smith is certainly a smart pickup here for the Lions. Wide receiver is certainly a need. So I really like the pick, and this has been a really good mock draft so far. I've enjoyed it. So Miami trades back, and in return they get Jalen Waddle. So this is the ideal situation for Miami. Obviously they would love to get their hands on Devontae Smith, but why not get another Alabama wide receiver, another player that Tua Tagovailoa could be comfortable with, and Jalen Waddle makes the most sense. I like this trade. For Miami, trading back and still getting a stud at 8 in Jalen Waddle, one of the most dynamic playmakers in this class. Another really good pick here by McShay. At 9, he has the Denver Broncos going Surtain. In all my mock drafts, if Surtain and Farley are available, I've gone Patrick Surtain. People say that Caleb Farley fits the Broncos scheme a little better and what Fangio's trying to do, and I agree with that, but also the fact that he opted out, his best season was out as a sophomore, raised some red flags for me. Surtain created an island on defense this year at Alabama, proved that he was the player we all thought he was as a sophomore coming into his junior season, and played very, very good football. Caleb Farley to the Broncos makes sense as well. It's going to be interesting. I really don't know where I stand at this point. Like I said, I've been Surtain, but the more I see Caleb Farley and the more the scheme makes sense, it would be possible that Caleb Farley gets to the Broncos. So that's what you could argue here. But regardless, I think Denver's going cornerback unless somehow Justin Fields, Zach Wilson falls to them. Then they might have to decide and make a decision on quarterback. But Bouye is probably going to get cut this year. Callahan will probably stay around, but he's more of a slot guy. OJ Moody is more of a slot guy. So getting a boundary cornerback and Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley makes the most sense for the Broncos. So he fills the need and probably the best defensive player available besides Micah Parsons here at 9 makes the most sense for the Broncos. At 10, now he goes Caleb Farley. You could argue offensive tackle for the Cowboys. You could argue some other positions as well. I think corner is their biggest need. You saw their secondary being absolute dog water this year. Caleb Farley is a really good player. Just touch on what he brings to the table. He's a great athlete, a really, really good player, and a fun player to watch. And aside from that opt-out, I really don't think there's a knock on his game right now. So Caleb Farley to the Cowboys also makes a lot of sense. At 11, this is interesting. Kyle Pitts to the New York Giants. I've seen this a bit. I think if Micah Parsons is here, they do go Micah Parsons. But with the top three receivers off the board, this pick could really be anything for the Giants. And obviously, Evan Ingram has disappointed Giants fans, and they're not really happy with what he's been doing for them the past few seasons with all the drops. So get one of the most dynamic playmakers I've ever seen in college football, one of the best mismatches that you're ever going to see in the draft in Kyle Pitts. He's basically a wide receiver. He continuously lined up out wide at Florida, continuously was playing basically wide receiver at Florida and dominating college cornerbacks. Can't wait to see what he does to college or NFL linebackers and safeties. He's a definition of a mismatch. It's filling a need, and then it allows you to trade a guy like Evan Ingram theoretically. So while I do believe that Micah Parsons should be the pick here at 11 if the top three receivers are off the board, it's a fun pick for the Giants to go Kyle Pitts. All right, so we have a trade here. Chicago make a play for a quarterback. I'm guessing it's going to be Mac Jones with the top four quarterbacks off the board, and it's San Fran. So to land the number 12 pick from San Francisco, the Bears would have to send their own first, so number 20, a second rounder, number 52, probably along with a 2022 first or second rounder. So kind of a haul here for Chicago to trade up 8 spots. But, they go Mac Jones. So, makes sense. Chicago probably won't re-sign Mitchell Trubisky. I know he's the MVP. He has a place in every NFL fan's heart. He can provide continuous entertainment for everyone in the NFL, aside from Bears fans. Really fun player, but he's not going to be the Bears quarterback next year. They're going to have to go a different direction. They could be one to trade for Deshaun Watson or Sam Darnold or Carson Wentz has been rumored there. But for right now, their quarterback is Mitch Trubisky. He can't predict the future, so he goes out and gets them a quarterback. In Mac Jones, I like it. Mac Jones had a great Senior Bowl. Obviously, the arm strength is still a concern, but the accuracy at the Senior Bowl was really fun to watch. He played very, very well. So I like this pickup too. I think Mac Jones could go anywhere from the range of 12 to 20, 21, even with the Colts picking that 21. So this is a good pick. At 13, he has the Los Angeles Chargers going Rashawn Slater. I've mocked this in basically all my mock draft tackle to the Chargers. I've never had Rashawn Slater fall this far. Usually it's Christian Darrisaw. But with Slater available, it's the same thing I said about Joe Burrow. You got to protect your quarterback. This is an absolute steal value for Rashawn Slater here at 13. So I think he's a top 10 player in the class. Chargers get him at 13. Great value, great need. And it's just a very, very good pickup here for the Chargers. So this has been a really good mock draft so far. This is another one I've mocked a ton of Elijah Vera Tucker to the Minnesota Vikings. I think that Elijah Vera Tucker really fits the Vikings. They need a tackle. They need a guard. They need help all over their offensive line. Obviously, tackle is less of a need than guard is, but he's such a versatile player that it's really fun for the Vikings to pick him up here because, again, they need help basically everyone on the offensive line. He can fill all those roles. So versatile offensive lineman that can play anywhere. Really good pickup for the Vikings. I had the Vikings trading back and getting him still. So I think it's a great value no matter where you get Elijah Vera Tucker. I think he fits perfectly for the Vikings. At 15, here goes Micah Parsons. I had this in one of my mock drafts when I had a team trading up to get Mac Jones as well. Micah Parsons is a really good fit for Patriots. Obviously, Hightower opted out. It's going to be interesting to see how good he is when he comes back and what the Patriots really decide to do with him. But Micah Parsons, personally, I think is the best defensive player in this class. Has character issues. He might slide, but, it's going to be interesting. He says Parsons, my number 4 overall prospect, slides to the number 15 pick because of unique circumstances following a rush on quarterbacks and wide receivers. So he doesn't mention the character issues, but I think the best place for a player with character issues to go is New England with Bill Belichick. So it's a great pick. Fills the need again, and another really good pickup for the Patriots. And this has, again, been really one of my favorite mock drafts I've seen. It's unique, it's different, but also he does a great job at filling needs for teams. At 16, here we go. Here's an interesting one. Greg Rousseau, edge rusher out of Miami, to the Arizona Cardinals. Gregory Rousseau, Swiss Army knife on that defensive line. He can play edge. He can play outside linebacker, like he says. He also can play interior defensive line, a 3 technique, a 4 technique. A really, really fun player to watch. Gregory Rousseau gets after the quarterback, had 15.5 sacks in his redshirt freshman season, I want to say. I think he was a redshirt sophomore, opted out, and now is going to the draft. So the opt-out, I think, hurts him. I think he won't be the first edge due to that opt-out, as well as the fact that there's no combine this year and he can't really show off his athleticism. Regardless, he's a really, really good player, really fun player. I think Cardinals have to go corner no matter what here in the first round. It's their biggest need, but it's a fun mock. So this is really one of the first picks I've really had a problem with. But, we'll see how it goes. I think the edge class is kind of uncertain right now. At 17, this is another interesting one. He has the Las Vegas Raiders going Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I kind of want to read his reasoning on this. Yeah, because they brought in Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski, so I don't really think they need a linebacker. And they traded for Raekwon McMillan, but he is a free agent. Yeah, so there are holes all over. Like you said, the pass rush generated 21 sacks this season. That's why I've been mocking edge in every single one of my mocks to the Raiders. They have one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL. I think you got to go edge if you're the Raiders. So this is another one I'm kind of iffy on. I don't think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah fits necessarily a need, but he is one of the best players available. So if you want to go by BPA draft strategy, then it's certainly a possibility for the Vegas Raiders to go Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah here. But again, I think edge is far and away their biggest need. So kind of a questionable one. And at 18, this is another fun one, Jalen Phillips. So he likes these Miami defensive ends because he goes Greg Rousseau and he goes Jalen Phillips. Obviously, Jalen Phillips is the grad transfer from UCLA. But he's another really fun player, kind of a hothead. But he got after the quarterback a lot for Miami. He was one of their best defensive players. Everyone thought Quincy Roche was going to be the guy after Rousseau opted out. But Jalen Phillips really proved to be that number one guy. And he's a really, really fun player. Stays home, stays local. Obviously, he's originally from UCLA, but goes to Miami here after he transferred to Miami. So it's an interesting pick. I don't think that edge is the number one need for the Dolphins. I think you could go running back. You could go linebacker. Obviously, you took Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah the pick before, so it might be a reach on a guy like Nick Bolton or Zaven Collins, but I think they would still go in that route with the fact that they were the ones that traded away Raekwon McMillan to the Raiders. So I think there's some bigger holes, but he really seems to like Jalen Phillips. So it's a fun take, and again, I don't think the Dolphins would do that, would go edge in the first round, but it's going to be interesting because, again, when it comes down to mocks and mock drafts, really no one's ever right, so it could happen. At 19, Washington football team goes Kadarius Toney. I've been mocking this recently. Love to see Mcshays mocking it with me. Really, really fun receiver. He proved to be a really, really solid route runner, a better route runner than everyone thought he was at the Senior Bowl. Had some drop issues at the Senior Bowl, but had 0 drops all season, so I don't really think drops are a concern of his. He's a really fun player, utility knife, someone that can play all over the field at wide receiver, and just adds another weapon to the football team. So it's a good pick and one that I really agree with here at 19. At 20, this is interesting, Trayvon Morig. So the 49ers trade back, get Trayvon Morig. He's a guy that a lot of these draft personalities seem to love. Matt Miller really likes Trayvon Morig. Todd Mcshays obviously loves him if he's mocking him in the top 20. I think Mel Kiper also mocked him in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. So people seem to be pretty high on Trayvon Morig. I have him as a solidified second-round talent, probably the best safety in the class, though. But I don't mind the pick. 49ers need some help in the secondary. With J.C. Horn being here, do they pass on him? Probably not. But Trayvon Morig at 20 could happen. He could be in the first round. Again, I don't necessarily agree with it, but a lot of people seem to be high in Trayvon Morig. I just want to read this. Perhaps the 49ers look to cornerbacks like J.C. Horn or Aaron Robinson, one of my fastest risers in this class, but the value and need of Morig is just too great to miss. So I'm interested to see McShay's big board, but he certainly has Trayvon Morig pretty high if he thinks the value is too good to miss. Probably top 15 player for him. So it's interesting to see where people have these safeties rated because it's kind of a weird safety class. But overall, Trayvon Morig at 20 is a fun pickup for the 49ers. I don't necessarily agree with it, but again, what does anyone know when it comes down to mock drafts? At 21, the Indianapolis Colts go Kwity Paye. This is an interesting one. I think with some of the best tackles remaining, Christian Darrisaw isn't off the board. You got guys like Alex Leatherwood, Sam Cosmi, all available. I think the Colts go and fill that role. Obviously, their offensive line is very good, but with Costanzo retiring, they're going to need to fill that tackle role. So I think they go in that direction. Kwity Paye is someone that people are really high on. I'm personally not high on him. I still mock him pretty high because, again, other people are high on him, which means probably that the GMs are pretty high on him. But Kwity Paye here, third edge off the board for him. It's an interesting edge edge order with Rousseau, Jalen Phillips, and then Kwity Paye. I'm interested to see where he's going to have guys like, not Caleb Farley, Azeez Ojulari, and Joseph Osai at. But, the Colts could go. Justin Houston is getting old and up there in age, and they need another edge rusher. Obviously, DeForest Buckner provides your pressure from up the middle, and Autry played very good as well. Darius Leonard also sometimes rushes the quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see what the Colts do. They do definitely need edge, and Kwity Paye could fill that role. So I don't mind the pickup at all. Again, I think tackle's a bigger need, but it's really not all that bad of a pick. Just mentioned this guy's name, Azeez Ojulari. Very, very, very good player. I really like Azeez Ojulari. He's my number one edge. He just gets to the quarterback consistently, and whether it's sacks or pressures, he's always in the backfield. He's always playing really, really good ball. So I really like to pick up. Tennessee Titans need a pocket pusher. They have Harold Landry. They have Jeffrey Simmons. Just one more guy in there can make that a really, really elite defensive line. So Azeez Ojulari, sick pickup there for the Titans. At 23, first running back off the board, it is Travis Etienne to the New York Jets. So Zach Wilson and Etienne is actually a really fun pairing. I think they could have a lot of fun together. Personally, Najee's my number one running back, but Etienne in the first round, something that I haven't done yet, but I've seen a lot of people do, and it's definitely a possibility if you have him as your running back number one. I think there will only end up being one running back in the first round, but Etienne could be that guy. For right now, I have Najee Harris. I mocked him to the Steelers my last mock draft, but Travis Etienne to the Jets does make a lot of sense and is a fun pick. So Villanueva retires for the Steelers. He has them getting Darisaw. I have Darisaw rated much higher than this. I think he's a top 20 talent, and I have had him going at 13 to the Chargers. But he falls here to 24. And Darisaw, again, I think is solidified. I think the top three tackles in this class have really, solidified themselves as the top three. You have Darisaw, you have Slater, and you have Sewell. And then the order after that, it could be anything. Leatherwood could go, Cosme could go, Mayfield could go. There's a lot of back-end first-round talents at the tackle position, so it's going to be interesting to see where those guys fall. Raduns out of North Dakota State is another one, so it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens with that. But Darisaw at 24 makes sense. It could happen if he falls this far, and it's a great pickup for the Steelers. Great value, in my opinion, for the Steelers at 24. At 25, Levi Onwuzurike, still can't pronounce his name. I've been trying, but I can't. This is an interesting one, a player that I haven't seen been mocked in the first round ever. So this is a first for me. But again, these guys know more than we do. The average mock draft maker, the average YouTuber mock draft maker. This is interesting. Haven't seen it yet. My immediate reaction is I don't see this happening because I don't think he's a first-round talent. I have more of as a third-round talent, but really anything can happen. And, if GMs see this guy as, one of the best, it's interesting that he has him over Davion Nixon, Jay Tufele, and Christian Barmore. That's what's interesting to me, that he's his defensive tackle number one. I don't mind him going in the first round personally, but having him over those three guys is what's interesting to me. So Jacksonville fills a need at the interior defensive line. Calais Campbell left a huge gap there, so it makes sense for them to go this position. But I don't know if this is the right player. So this is an interesting one for McShay. I don't agree with it, but again, can't really ever be sure about which players are going to go where. At 26, David Collins to the Browns makes sense. They need linebacker. He's the best one remaining. Nick Bolton could go at this spot. An edge rusher could go at this spot. He still has Joseph Osai not picked, so I think this would certainly be a good Joseph Osai spot. But David Collins, good player, and he might have him as an edge rusher. I kind of want to see. Myles Garrett can't be the only effective pass rusher on this roster, and hovering in the middle of the league in sacks last year. So, yeah, he has Zaven more as an edge rusher than an interior linebacker. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can do both. So, it's interesting that he has Zaven Collins kind of rushing off the edge in this scenario with the Browns' defense. So, if that's the direction he goes and he thinks Zaven Collins could fill two holes at once, which is what I've been doing with the Bills with Zaven Collins in my past few mocks, I think it's a great pickup here for the Browns. At 27, now J.C. Horton goes, and it's a weird spot. You got him going to the Ravens. I think the Ravens' biggest needs right now are edge and wide receiver. And with Joseph Osai being on the board, I don't see them passing on him. And I don't see them passing on maybe a guy like Rashad Bateman if he's available at this point. But it's going to be interesting. I don't think the Ravens go corner. I think J.C. Horton is certainly a first-round talent and will go in the first round. But I don't like this landing spot, especially when the Ravens have bigger needs. But this could just be best player available at this point. Actually, let's see what he says about the wide receiver. He says there are definitely wide receiver options for a team that got very little out of the position this season, including Bateman, Elijah Moore, and edge rusher could also be in the mix, but weighing need here. Okay, so yeah, he goes value So best player available, J.C. Horn, he takes him to the Ravens. So that makes sense. I think need's a little more important for the Ravens. They got pretty good players and got a pretty good team right now. I think they just got to go with their team needs at this point and get a player that can help out Lamar Jackson at wide receiver or could get after the quarterback. So I think need is a little more important right now for the Ravens. But J.C. Horn, best player available, he takes him. At 28, he has tackle here. This is an interesting one. Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk certainly are the bookends right now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. But they also don't really have cap, so they might have to trade one. Let's see what he says. All that aside, Mayfield makes sense. New Orleans has found success in taking linemen early. They did it with Ruiz, McCoy, Ryan Ramczyk. I like Mayfield in rotation inside. Okay, so he has him sliding inside, not necessarily playing tackle. So that makes sense, getting some help on the inside. I think the Saints have bigger needs here. I don't really like this pick, but if you want to put Mayfield as a guard or even center, perhaps, then it would make sense. And he even says Saints aren't able to return both Ramczyk and Armstead after next season. His power would help open up running lanes for running back Ryan or Alvin Kamara. So this is kind of a future pick up here for the Saints, but I don't mind the pick. I just don't necessarily it would be the best pick up here for the Saints. At 29, Aaron Robinson did this in my last mock draft. I said Kevin King, baby back bitch, got absolutely terrorized by that Buccaneers receiving core. Now you get a guy that's a physical corner, a really, really good player. Aaron Robinson to the Packers. Love this pick, and I agree with this one 100%. At 30, Najee Harris. We got a running back going. 2 running backs in the first round. ETN to the Jets at 23. Najee Harris to the Bills here at 30. Singletary really didn't produce for you this year. And Najee Harris is just not a glorified even. He's just a far superior Zach Moss that can also catch very effectively. So a really fun pickup here for Najee or for the Bills, getting a running back to help out Josh Allen. At this point, you're kind of set. You got Josh Allen. He's your guy. You got Diggs. He's your guy at wide receiver. That offense is going to be good. Just get a few new weapons, some guys that can, bring even more fireworks to the show, and that's what the Bills do here. Their defense does need some help, and they do need to address it at some point in the draft, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the first round. So I don't mind the Najee Harris pickup. It's a fun pickup, and getting Josh Allen another weapon and getting the Bills offense another weapon couldn't hurt. At 31, we got Joe Tyron here, the defensive edge out of Washington. This is someone that I've also seen in the first round quite a bit. Someone that I don't view as a first-round pick, and it's interesting. It does appear that he has Joseph Osai falling off out of the first round. So Joe Tyron over Joseph Osai, something that I don't necessarily agree with, but I've seen Tyron's name in the mix a lot here in the first round. So 2 defensive linemen from Washington is interesting. Again, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I could see it happening. It really depends on what you value your edge at. And to the Chiefs is another interesting one. I think that, they patchworked their offensive line all season. It worked out until the end of the draft or until the end of the season and the Super Bowl when it really, really didn't work out. And I know that was mostly because they didn't have their tackles, but their guards and center are kind of patchwork as well. Obviously, Tardif is coming back after opting out. Hopefully, and what he did was awesome by going out and helping being a healthcare worker during this coronavirus. That was one of the best opt-outs we've seen. But I think they certainly need to address interior offensive line. You could get a guy like Wyatt Davis here perhaps, or even go wide receiver and get a guy like Elijah Moore who would fit the build of the Chiefs perfectly, or even Rashad Bateman if you want a pure X. So I don't think it's necessarily the best pickup for the Chiefs, but again, it could happen. At 32, this is one that I've been doing too, Christian Barmore, personally who I think is the best interior defensive lineman in the class. Going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers makes sense. They need a guy alongside Vita Vea there, and Christian Barmore can get after the quarterback and stop the run, and could really be helpful to the Buccaneers. I think they could also go edge. Do they resign Shaq Barrett? Maybe, maybe not. They also have to pay Levante David, who I just saw is hoping to become the highest paid linebacker in the NFL. So that's going to be a pretty costly paycheck if they want to maintain Levante David. So it's going to be interesting to see where they prioritize these guys. But regardless, that was a lot of fun. I like going through these mock drafts. If you want to keep seeing me react to mock drafts, leave comments down below. Let me know how you guys are enjoying this content. We are going to do a Denver Broncos team mock draft coming out very soon, so stay tuned for that. But regardless, guys, take it easy. Peace.